Hi, my name is Philippe Stoll. I work at the International Committee of the Red Cross on the question of the impact of digital technologies in armed conflict. We are here at the AI for Good Summit with a kind of a booth, an experience to try to speak about how much AI is impacting digital technologies, how much digital technology and AI is impacting conflict.
That's not good, right? That's not AI for good, is it?
I would say it's AI for not so bad, in the sense that we know that AI can have a positive impact, but we want to be sure that if it is used by armies as a weapon, there are limits. And this is what the ICRC is doing, is trying to create an international treaty next year on limiting the use of autonomous weapons targeting human beings. In fact, it's a prohibition that we want. We want to be sure that weapons that are used are predictable and they don't do mistakes and kill civilians or destroy civilian objects.
If it could be used to make sure that no civilians is killed, that would be great.
I don't know if it could be great, but at least it could follow what is important to us is international humanitarian law, the Geneva Convention. The Geneva Convention don't say don't do war. It says if you do war, don't target civilians, don't kill wounded soldiers, etc. So it's the same. If you prove me that you have a tool that respects this law, that is embedded in the digital technologies, I won't say it's good, but I say at least it's follow the rules.
Maybe there's a way to collaborate with some of these satellite provider imagery that are doing real-time satellite cover the whole world, and to kind of like check that the armies are following the rules. Does that make sense?
For us, we are not part of a legal framework that says what is right or what is wrong. We are trying to set the boundaries, the laws, and therefore, if you have a tool to help armies to behave correctly, definitely for sure. This is something we might be interested. What matters for us is that technologists in armed forces, but also why not those who are developing these tools in the private sector, they understand this dimension. And again, if I go back to the Geneva Convention, what matters is definitely the question of, is your tool capable to distinguish between a combatant, someone you can kill, and a civilian? And if it is possible to distinguish between a number of civilians and a military, and this is a question of proportion.
Because there's a lot of talk of some very bad uses of AI in some of the conflicts right now. And are you involved in trying to change the rules for that, or make sure that this doesn't happen?
Totally. That's the work that the ICRC is doing for now 160 years. Every time there is a technological evolution, we try to come up with new standards, with new rules. I give you one example of a weapon that was developed in the 80s, blinding lasers. Have you heard about them in the conflict? No, because we managed to stop it before. There are some weapons that are being used, such as landmines, that are used, but we try to come with a treaty to ban it. Doesn't work all the time, but that's something we are trying to push for countries, for armies not to use it. But that's part of the work that is sometimes complicated. And this is the same with AI and technologies, different technologies in conflict. We try to understand how much is harm and how we can do the limits of this harm.
Are you involved in trying to regulate the companies that work with countries that do wrong things?
No, we can't work and regulate companies. Our work is directly with states. So it's up to the states to decide what are the limits they want to see in war, and therefore work directly with companies. This said, companies are coming to us because they are interested to understand what are the limits, what are the thresholds they should not pass. But this is not to us to tell them this is right or this is wrong.
Because there's so much potential for AI for good, right?
Totally.
And this is what you're talking about at this conference?
We are coming with two different angles. Definitely the one where we should regulate AI and weapons, but at the same time, we want to take advantage of the benefit of it. And that's why we have developed an AI policy for our own internal use. One big issue we have is that if we do something wrong, this is the most vulnerable who will suffer. If, for example, I use a tool that does discriminate and then a poor population doesn't get food because of the tool that is not well calibrated, they suffer. And we work in places where we work with people who have lost almost everything. And this is where we have this policy. And when company comes to us or an academic institution, we give them our framework, we give them a policy, and this is where we can start a discussion and a conversation. If they say, oh, it's too complicated, thank you, continue and try to do best. But what is interesting is that we work with academic institutions such as the EPFL in Lausanne or ETH in Zurich, and they are interested to do research for us.
Because I'm just a YouTuber, but I'm thinking AI should be possible to make sure people have food, security, the basics, water, correct. Freedom of movement maybe, and it should be possible to manage. It's not that many people in the world, and these AI models, they have trillions of whatever things in them, and how hard could it be to have a system that really make sure everybody has the rights that they should be allowed to have? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
I totally sense, and I was thinking the same way as you, because this is why the ICRC was founded, to try to help population who have lost mostly everything, especially in conflict. We see hunger, we see bombing, we see torture. And this is something we want to try to find solutions to help in a more efficient way. Today, technologies and the way we find technologies have a bias. They have models that are not transparent. There is a lack of explainability. And this is something we cannot use because we don't want to create new problems or additional problems for a population which is already in a deep trouble.
And how quickly can you come with solutions? Because it's a pressing issue, right?
It is pressing.
And how big is the role for you in terms of what's happening?
So we're already doing a lot. Unfortunately, money is getting reduced. The budgets and countries who finance an organization such as like us is reducing, but we still try to do our work the way we do it, but we try to improve it little by little. If one day there is a magic tool, definitely we'll be very happy to use it. But we have a lot of constraints, and this is something where people sometimes don't understand, that a constraint that as a humanitarian organization, it's much more than just, okay, do like this, distribute food, but maybe it's not the right food. Maybe the food already exists on the spot and we can use the food on the spot. Or we can be sure that the elders get the right amount of food as opposed to a healthy person, which will be stronger to get the food before them. So it's more complicated than what we think, but this is also what is interesting in such a conference, is that we can have a dialogue with everyone and we can try and to bring this dimension, this constraint we have, and try to find people who are ready to work with us to find solutions.
One last question. They're talking a lot about drones and warfare and stuff like that.
Correct.
But it'd be great if drones were for good, and there were some good drones, and they were going around monitoring the people getting their rights properly, and maybe also robots that could help demining, or are you working in also that direction, or who's doing it?
So we are doing a research, because for us one important thing is that we don't want to test on people. We want to be sure that when we deploy a tool, it's safe. So we are doing a research right now with an academic institution in Japan, the Waseda University, where we have drones that have embedded a geothermic camera with sensors that they can help to detect unexploded remnants of war. It works on a flat land. It works in some specific conditions, but when there is trees or mountains, that's more complicated. So it needs a lot of training. And again, a great idea is always very complex. And this is why, again, we work with academic institutions to try to test cases. And that's also why, as the people of the universities, they love us, because we came with many more problems than they ever think. So we are coming here also to present a project which is called a digital emblem. You have this emblem, which is a flag. This flag is something that is written in the law that you should not attack. It's on hospital, it's on cars. So it doesn't prevent a bullet or bomb to land on the building. But we were thinking, in a cyberspace, in a cyber age, how do we protect the server? How do we protect the data? So we are coming up with a project called the Digital Emblem that is meant to showcase or to signal the fact that there is a server that belongs to the Red Cross. It won't prevent a cyber attack, but at least the standard will definitely help to showcase that if you attack it, you might breach the law, and therefore it might be a crime against humanity or war crimes, which is something that you might end up in a tribunal.
What could be on the database that people want to attack? Like they could be private information about people in war zones, or they want to break it so it doesn't work anymore?
There are many issues. I'm not a hacker, so I don't know what's the rationale behind. What we know is that we have information, very sensitive information about people who have lost everything. We also have a dialogue with the different parties to a conflict. We are present in more than 120 countries where there is a war. So definitely there is something which is for us very important to protect, to be sure that the people we help are not going to face an additional suffering because this data is being used against them.